Shout out to Blue Collar Sports TV.
Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick preview and prediction for Miguel Berchelt versus Oscar Valdez. This fight goes down on the 20th of February and it is for the WBC Super Featherweight title, which of course is held by Miguel Berchelt. I've got to be honest, I'm actually really looking forward to this fight. You know, traditionally both guys are aggressive fighters. Both guys like to come and bring it. Both guys will take risks. And when you put these two guys in the ring together, I'm sure you're going to get a very exciting fight. Plus the fact that these two guys are Mexicans and the pride of Mexico will be on the line in this fight. Should be a real fun night of boxing. But yeah, looking forward to it. We'll briefly run through the tail of the tape. We shall start with the champion Miguel Berchelt. Miguel Berchelt has an impressive record of 37 wins, 1 defeat, 0 draws. 33 of those 37 wins coming by way of knockout. Oscar Valdez has a perfect record of 28-0, 22 of those 28 wins coming by way of knockout. Miguel Berchelt is listed as 5'7", with a 71.5-inch reach, whereas Oscar Valdez is listed as 5'5.5", with a 66-inch reach. So Miguel Berchelt has a height advantage of 1.5 inches and also a 5.5-inch reach advantage. It's clear to see Miguel Berchelt is the bigger guy in this fight, and that is to be expected as Oscar Valdez is coming up from featherweight. And let's be honest, the size difference in this fight could play a real factor, especially given how both guys fight. But yeah, Miguel Berchelt is 29 years old, Oscar Valdez is 30 years old, and both guys are orthodox fighters. So that is the tail of a tape out of the way. I guess now I'll try and break this fight down, give pointers in regards to what I believe each guy should do, and at the end of the video, make my official pick. Now going into this fight, one thing I think is a factor is the momentum of both guys going into this fight. Miguel Berchelt is the WBC Super Featherweight champion, and he is coming off numerous title defenses. He's looking good, he's looking strong. And basically he's been blowing through everything that's been in front of him for the last few years. He's coming into this fight with real good form. The only downside for him is that in 2020 he had no significant fights due to COVID, so inactivity could be a factor, but apart from that, Miguel Berchelt is coming into this fight in the prime of his career and in the form of his career, whereas Oscar Valdez in recent years has been looking a little vulnerable, I have to be honest. At featherweight he had several hard fights, for example the Scott Quigg fight, which caused a lot of damage to Oscar Valdez. I mean, even his first fight at super featherweight against Adam Lopez, who wasn't a top 10 contender at the time, he gave Oscar Valdez some real problems. He dropped him, he hurt him, and it was a really hard fight. What I'm trying to say is, in recent fights, Oscar Valdez has been looking vulnerable, and he's taken a lot of damage. Some people actually speculate that Oscar Valdez could already be on his way down and basically declining as a fighter due to his fighting style. If that is the case, I've got to be honest, Miguel Berchelt is the last guy you want to fight, because he's going to test your heart, he's going to test your toughness, your chin, and he's really going to put it on you. Berchelt is a big, strong guy with power in both hands, never stops coming forwards. If you're on the decline and are showing the battle scars of your career, then Berchelt is the last guy you want to fight. Just ask Francisco Vargas and Miguel Roman. Look at what Berchelt did to those guys who were on their way out. So the status of where Oscar Valdez is right now in his career certainly is a red flag going into this fight. He's not looked good for quite some time, and some would say he's showing the signs of battle. That is a concern going into this fight. But providing he's okay, let's break down what both guys should do. I guess we'll start with the underdog, Oscar Valdez. Now going into this fight, as we saw from the tail of a tape, Oscar Valdez is the smaller man in this fight by height, by reach and by weight. So, to me, Oscar Valdez carrying out his traditional style of brawling and punching with you would be extremely risky in this fight. Oscar Valdez back in the day was actually a very good amateur. He fought in the Olympics and he fought several quality amateurs. He needs to draw back on that experience going into this fight. He needs to devise a game plan which can diffuse the size, strength and relentlessness of Miguel Berchelt. And like I said, Oscar Valdez purely fighting with Miguel Berchelt would be a bad idea. Oscar Valdez needs to be a lot more cerebral in this fight. He needs to be picking his moments, getting in, getting out, and basically trying to avoid the pocket as long as possible against the bigger, stronger man who throws a lot of punches. Oscar Valdez, for my money, certainly has quicker hands. He's certainly more explosive. So for me, Oscar Valdez needs to actually try and counterpunch a bit more in this fight. He needs to try and expose some of those holes in the defense of Miguel Berchelt. Miguel Berchelt, yes, he's physically daunting. He throws a lot of punches. He hits hard with both hands, and he'll keep on coming forwards. But defensively, there's a lot of mistakes there. In particular, when he's actually walking you down, he pays very little attention to defense. Full stop. He'll come in with his hands low, particularly that left hand. And one punch Oscar Valdez delivers really well is the quick looping overhand right. And that shot against someone like Miguel Berchelt could be very effective. He'll need to try and time Miguel Berchelt coming in and walk him into big power shots. Valdez needs to be explosive in this fight. He needs to be getting in and out. And like I said, he needs to try and avoid staying in the pocket with Miguel Berchelt and banging. That could be tempting because I think Oscar Valdez naturally has quicker hand speed than Miguel Berchelt. Maybe he believes he could punch with Berchelt and land some good counters. And there will be times when he needs to do that. But to me, he needs to try and keep those moments to a minimum. And when they do occur, when you're punching with Miguel Berchelt, make those moments count. Give Berchelt something to think about. So when you are trading with Berchelt, don't load up on every single punch. Try and vary the power of your combinations. So throw 2 light punches and then the third could be a hard punch. Make Berchelt wary of what's coming at all times, because recently I think Oscar Valdez has actually kind of fallen into the trap of just becoming a bit of a slugger. When he turned pro, he looked a lot more explosive, a lot more fast, a lot more dynamic, and in recent years, that side of Oscar Valdez has actually kind of vanished. So he needs to get back to that. He needs to be a lot more explosive. He needs to be utilising counter-punching in this fight because the holes are there with Miguel Berchelt. Like I said, defensively, he's not great at all. And also, Miguel Berchelt, the taller, longer man, try and work that body of Miguel Berchelt. There's a lot of body there. Oscar Valdez can work the body quite well. So when you're in that pocket, don't be scared to work that body when you are there. Maybe some uppercuts to the body, hooks to the body, etc. So, body work for Oscar Valdez could also be key in regards to trying to slow down the relentless pressure of Miguel Berchelt. For me, Oscar Valdez needs to get back to what he was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, when he was just before he became a world champion. He was extremely explosive, he was extremely dynamic, looked a lot quicker. And yeah, he needs to go back to that sort of style. The mindless brawling against Miguel Berchelt, unless you land a great shot and knock him out, it's not going to work, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, Oscar Valdez needs to rewind the clock to the guy he was when he turned pro. A lot of people were excited about Oscar Valdez back then, but it's never really panned out. And like I said, he certainly is going to need to show a career best performance to win this fight. So yeah, Oscar Valdez really has it all to do in this fight. As for Miguel Berchelt, as we know, he is the significant favourite going into this fight. He is the bigger, stronger man, and ultimately it's down to him to impose himself on Oscar Valdez. One thing I want to see from Miguel Berchelt in this fight, behind that pressure game, I want to see more of a jab from Miguel Berchelt. One criticism I've got from Berchelt is the lack of a jab. He is very gung-ho coming forwards, and he'll actually take a lot of risks in closing the distance. I think one way in which you can minimise those risks is actually using that jab to get on the inside, to try and force Oscar Valdez back, to keep him occupied. Miguel Berchelt can actually throw a half-decent jab on the front foot, so why not be more consistent with it in this fight? You're fighting a much smaller man, so ram that jab down his face, make it hard for him to get set and land those explosive power shots as you're coming in. Try and force Oscar Valdez back with it, to the ropes, to the corner, and have him stationary. And in those moments, of course, Miguel Berchelt can really impose his will, his size, his strength, and his volume punching, and then basically wail away on a stationary Oscar Valdez. Because on the inside, yeah, Valdez might be more explosive, but like I said, Berchelt is the bigger, stronger man, and in those inside exchanges, you would imagine that favours Miguel Berchelt. So Berchelt needs to get to the inside, more than likely Oscar Valdez is going to let him due to Oscar Valdez's style and his machismo. But just to be safe, I want to see Miguel Berchelt use a more consistent jab in this fight. I think with a jab, Miguel Berchelt would be so much more effective. And also in this fight, I think Miguel Berchelt may need to just tighten up that defense a little bit. Like I said, Miguel Berchelt, from what I've seen in his career, yeah, he's extremely exciting, but he takes a lot of risks defensively. So I would like to see him tighten up in this fight a bit, Miguel Berchelt is never going to be Sweet Pea Whitaker or Money Mayweather. He's never going to be that sort of guy, but you could at least, try and come in behind a nice tight guard and use that jab behind it. He needs to be a bit more hard to hit than he currently is, because ultimately the only chance I believe Oscar Valdez has in this fight is landing the perfect shot. And ultimately it's down to Berchelt to minimise the risk of that happening. And a couple of ways to do that, as you're walk him down behind a jab, and also come in behind a nice tight guard. I do believe Oscar Valdez can crack, even at super featherweight. And ultimately, who knows, potentially he could actually hurt Miguel Berchelt. So defensively, Berchelt needs to be a little more switched on in this fight. I would hazard a guess and say Oscar Valdez hits harder than Mickey Roman or Francisco Vargas or Takeyoshi Miura. I would imagine Oscar Valdez hits harder than these guys, and they were finding him quite easily. And they don't have the explosiveness of Oscar Valdez. So defense in this fight, I think Miguel Berchelt definitely needs to tighten up. But yeah, ultimately, this one should be a fun fight. But Miguel Berchelt is the favourite, and rightly so. Would I be shocked if Oscar Valdez pulled this one off by a knockout? I'd be surprised, but not necessarily shocked. But ultimately, my prediction in this fight would be a Miguel Berchelt late stoppage. I believe you'll see Oscar Valdez have moments of success. Maybe he might buzz Miguel Berchelt a couple of times. He'll throw some good combinations and get some cheers from the crowd, if there is any crowd. But ultimately, I just believe Miguel Berchelt is going to be too big, too strong for Oscar Valdez. And I would imagine Miguel Berchelt stops Oscar Valdez in the latter part of this fight. But it is a good fight. It should be fan-friendly. And if you are available on the 20th of February, I would highly recommend that you guys watch this fight. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.